In the grim and expansive universe of Warhammer 40,000, few Space Marine legions stand out as starkly as the Thousand Sons, a legion gifted and ultimately cursed with potent psychic abilities. Led by the Primarch Magnus the Red, the Thousand Sons were driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, particularly in the realms of the Warp, the mysterious dimension that fuels psychic power. Among the many tools they wielded, Tutelares played a unique and essential role, acting as supernatural guides and amplifiers of psychic energy. These entities, minor warp spirits summoned and bound to individual psykers within the Legion, served as guardians, mentors, and advisors to the Thousand Sons, enhancing their understanding and control over psychic phenomena. Yet, as tools of the Warp, Tutelares possessed a dark duality. While these entities enhanced the powers of the Thousand Sons and served as sources of guidance, they also presented a gateway to chaos. Their reliance on such beings, even prior to their official fall to chaos, reveals the tragic contradiction at the heart of the Thousand Sons' fate, a desperate quest for knowledge that ultimately drew them too close to corruption. The tale of the Tutelares, intertwined with the downfall of the Thousand Sons, reflects the inherent risks of dabbling in forbidden knowledge and the insidious ways in which chaos corrupts. By examining the role of Tutelares, we uncover the subtle yet devastating influence they exerted, transforming guides into agents of ruin and sealing the Thousand Sons' fate. The origins of the Tutelares are as mysterious as the Thousand Sons' connection to the Warp, reflecting the complexities and dangers of their psychic bond. Unlike other legions, which warily avoided the Warp's influence, the Thousand Sons eagerly embraced it, making Warp manipulation integral to their practices. Tutelares arose within this framework as minor Warp spirits that became extensions of the Psykers' minds, acting as guides, amplifiers, and at times, even protectors. For each Thousand Sons Psyker, a Tutelary was not merely a tool, but a deeply personal entity, crafted and named to enhance specific strengths and reflect their own unique powers. These beings often manifested as ghostly forms visible only to their hosts, phantasms shaped like birds, spectral animals, or shifting energies, each a projection of the Psyker's mind and intent. The true nature of Tutelares, however, remains a subject of great speculation, with theories attempting to explain their mysterious presence. The first theory posits that Tutelares are fragments of the Psyker's own soul, broken off and deliberately fashioned to forge a more direct link to the Warp. This approach would mean each Thousand Sons Psyker sacrificed a part of himself, creating a companion that allowed him deeper access to forbidden energies while reinforcing his psychic control. A second, more sinister theory holds that Tutelares are not self-created fragments at all, but rather covert agents of Tzeentch, the chaos god of change, strategically embedded within the Legion. According to this view, Tutelares were never simply guides, but subtle infiltrators, watching and waiting for the ideal moment to ensnare their hosts, bending them gradually toward corruption. A final theory suggests that Tutelares are neutral psychic entities from the Warp, unaffiliated with chaos, and merely drawn to the potent psychic signatures of the Thousand Sons and the rituals they were taught by their Primarch. In this light, Tutelares might simply be opportunistic, feeding off the Legion's power without any predetermined allegiance. While these theories remain unconfirmed, some evidence hints at the influence of Tzeentch behind the scenes, suggesting a link that would only become clear once the Thousand Sons had already succumbed to its snares. For the Thousand Sons, however, these uncertainties were of little immediate concern. The Tutelares were trusted and valued allies, sources of power and guidance that had become inseparable from their lives as psychic warriors. In their embrace of such entities, the Thousand Sons unknowingly courted a deeper bond with the warp, one that would hold both tremendous promise and terrible risk. In the Thousand Sons' relentless pursuit of psychic mastery, tutelaries became indispensable, providing each psyker with access to complex warp manipulations that would otherwise be beyond reach. These spirits served as stabilizers during volatile rituals, helping Thousand Sons psykers channel energies with precision and explore hidden layers of warp knowledge. More than mere tools, tutelaries became deeply ingrained in the Legion's culture, with each bond marking a significant milestone in a psyker's journey. This ritualized connection fostered a sense of reverence for warp entities, intertwining psychic skill with respect for the unknown and fueling the Legion's ambition to command powers far beyond mortal limits. Yet, this reliance on warp spirits gradually blurred the line between mastery and vulnerability. The frequent summoning and guidance from tutelaries fostered an attachment to warp forces that went deeper than simple apprenticeship. By continually inviting warp entities into their minds, the Thousand Sons grew accustomed to influences they believed they could control, ignoring signs of the subtle but insidious changes taking root within them. Over time, this reliance opened them to a hidden influence, aligning their understanding of the warp with the darker ambitions of chaos. Tutelaries thus became not only guides, but gateways, gradually leading the Legion toward an irreversible bond with the forces of Tzeentch. While the Thousand Sons revered their tutelaries as essential to their psychic mastery, the subtle machinations of Tzeentch slowly worked their way into the very fabric of the Legion's culture. The Chaos God of Change, known for his deceptive and ever-shifting nature, bided his time, allowing the tutelaries to serve as conduits for his influence. These warp entities, once seen as merely personal guides, became the vessels through which Tzeentch quietly wormed his way into the psykers' hearts and minds. The Legion, increasingly dependent on these spirits for their power, unknowingly allowed the seeds of chaos to be sown within their ranks. The guidance of the tutelaries began to mirror the whims of Tzeentch, subtly shaping the Thousand Sons' beliefs and practices to align with the Chaos God's goals. Tzeentch's influence, however, was not overt or immediate. It was a slow, insidious process, an ever-growing shift in the Legion's culture that manifested in their willingness to explore deeper, more dangerous sorceries and increasingly questionable methods. Over time, the psykers came to see the warp not as a tool, but as a realm they were destined to dominate. Their bond with the tutelaries deepened, and Tzeentch's guidance became ever more apparent, though still hidden beneath the surface. This subtle corruption would later reach its climax during the burning of Prospero, when the tutelaries, once seen as loyal guides, would reveal their true allegiance. The moment for Tzeentch to strike had arrived, and the tutelaries would lead the charge, turning against their former masters and unleashing destruction in the name of chaos. The burning of Prospero marked a catastrophic turning point for the Thousand Sons, and with it came the full, violent revelation of the tutelaries' true nature. As the battle raged between the Thousand Sons and the Space Wolves, the tutelaries, once revered as loyal guides, abandoned their psykers, turning against them in an unexpected and destructive manner. The spirits, who had always been instrumental in helping their hosts channel and control the warp, now sowed chaos and madness among the Thousand Sons, leading many to question what caused such a sudden shift. While it is tempting to point to Tzeentch's influence as the catalyst, it is not certain that this was the sole cause. The overwhelming presence of warp energy during the battle, combined with the intense psychic feedback from the conflict with the Space Wolves, could have been enough to drive the Tutelares to madness, causing them to lose their grip on reason and turn against the very psykers they had once aided. The immediate result was chaos. The Tutelares, seemingly overwhelmed by the energies of the warp, now twisted the psykers' powers, leading to erratic and uncontrollable manifestations of sorcery. It was as if the Tutelares themselves had become unhinged, pushing the Thousand Sons into a state of panic and destruction. Many of the Legion's warriors were consumed by the very powers they had sought to master, their once precise abilities now spiraling into dangerous unpredictability. Some might argue that Tzeentch's quiet manipulation had pushed the Tutelares toward this moment, while others might attribute it to the sheer intensity of the battle and the confluence of warp energies. Either way, the result was the same. What had once been a symbol of psychic mastery became a harbinger of chaos and ruin, leaving the Thousand Sons in a shattered state, torn apart by both external forces and internal betrayal. The flesh change, a brutal and terrifying mutation, had been a curse on the Thousand Sons long before the burning of Prospero. But it was after these events that it became an even more frequent and destabilizing threat. The mutating transformations that plagued the psykers had always been tied to their unnatural reliance on the warp, but the chaos unleashed during the battle with the Space Wolves seemed to push the curse to new extremes. As the Tutelares, once vital guides for controlling the forces of the warp, turned against the Thousand Sons, their influence on the Legion's psykers deepened, perhaps contributing to the acceleration of the flesh change. The question of whether the Tutelares themselves were amplifying the mutations or simply marking the inevitable unraveling of the Thousand Sons' fate is left uncertain. Regardless, it is clear that the aftermath of Prospero's fall saw the mutations become rampant, spreading across the Legion with alarming speed. In the wake of the Tutelares' betrayal and the unleashing of raw, uncontrollable warp energy, many of the Thousand Sons found themselves overtaken by the very powers they had once wielded with precision. The delicate balance between their bodies and the warp was shattered, and the flesh change spiraled out of control. Once a curse that had been manageable, it became a pervasive and increasingly violent threat that the Thousand Sons could no longer escape. The Tutelares, corrupted and unpredictable, seemed to act as conduits for this rampant change, pushing their psykers closer to the brink with each interaction, whether by intent or consequence. The connection between the Tutelares and the flesh change became undeniable, marking the Legion's transformation into something far more chaotic and uncontrollable. The Tutelares stand as a pivotal, if ambiguous force in the Thousand Sons' tragic descent into chaos. Whether they were initially pawns of Tzeentch or unwittingly corrupted by the immense warp energies unleashed at the burning of Prospero, their role in the Legion's downfall is undeniable. These entities, once trusted allies, became agents of the very destruction they were supposed to guide their psykers away from. The acceleration of the flesh change, long a lingering curse, became far more violent and widespread in the wake of the Tutelares' betrayal. The true nature of the Tutelares remains a mystery, but their connection to the collapse of the Thousand Sons into madness and mutation is indisputable. The legacy of the Tutelares is one of tragic irony, symbolizing the dangerous consequences of wielding unrestrained power. The very entities that the Thousand Sons trusted to help them navigate the warp became conduits for their undoing, pushing the Legion to embrace their inevitable fall. What started as a quest for knowledge and power ended in the chaos of corruption, with the tutelaries playing an instrumental role in the transformation of the Thousand Sons into servants of Tzeentch. If you found this exploration of the tutelaries insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Your support helps us continue to bring you these detailed analyses. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.